Thank you, Chairman. Thank you both for being here, and please pass along our gratitude to everyone who serves under your command. I think you have an enormous amount of the work they do every day has an enormous amount of respect from all of our constituents, and we should be very grateful for that. General Thomas, yesterday, I want to thank you for just sitting down with me in my office, and you and I discussed a number of things, but the high operational tempo is one of the things we touched on, and one of the things you mentioned to me that really stuck in my head as a number is that you also indicated that now somewhere between 28, I think, and 30% of your funding is now from war supplemental or OCO funding versus 7% across the other military services. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what that means in terms of that budgetary over-reliance on OCO and how that impacts your ability to plan and execute your mission.
Senator, thanks for the question. Thanks for the opportunity to discuss a number of issues with you in more detail yesterday. We monitor closely. I mentioned the two things that I look to that pressurize us most is unpredictable depth tempo, and certainly there are aspects of that are affecting our force, and resourcing, the predictability or not of resourcing, which has been challenging over time. We are monitoring very closely the budget discussions. We're inherent to it, or we're integral to all those budget discussions. And truthfully, I'm somewhat sanguine that we will get the resources required to continue to pursue the tempo and the effects that we're producing right now. You pointed out my one concern is that we have trended to be much more dependent on operational contingency funds than anybody else in DoD. So the current budget would push us.
If your overall budget were held flat in either, would you rather have that in base budget, or would you rather see it over in the OCO?
Senator, I hope that we will be able to get consideration to move that into the base over time. Again, I've talked with Secretary Mattis, so I don't want to be appearing inconsistent. The department is not pushing that as aggressively for the remainder of other services because they're only leveraged to OCO to about a 7% degree. Yeah. We are 30%, exactly, or near 30% right now, and so that's some risk that we'd certainly have to mitigate over time.
You know, one of the other things we mentioned and talked a little bit about is the contributions out at Cannon Air Force Base. Would you take a moment and talk a little bit about the importance of the RPA contribution that happens there? Do you have concerns with regard to operational tempo? We've made huge investments in that facility over the years because of the growing mission, but obviously the tempo has been incredible.
Senator, I think this committee is very aware that ISR is a significant portion of our portfolio, to the tune of about 1/5 of our investment strategy on a given annual basis. It runs the gamut from tactical ISR all the way to high-end ISR that our Air Force component produces, which is the best in the world. It's as good as, it's better than anything on the planet. Cannon plays a critical role in terms of the basing and training of that ISR capability, both manned and unmanned. And then the range complex there allows us to work it every night. So again, state-of-the-art ISR capability produced by our Air Force and others that we leverage on a consistent basis.
I also want to commend SOCOM's interest in pursuing what General Goldfein called or described as silent sabotage with regard to directed energy. And an airborne high-energy laser on a C-130 gunship could certainly deliver a number of capabilities before and during clandestine ground operations. Do you want to share any thoughts you have on how directed energy might contribute to your future mission and how SOCOM's plans for developing that system are coming along?
Senator, as we discussed yesterday, we see a number of applications for high-energy weapons capabilities. So we're interested from a number of approaches. You mentioned that we have offered to base it on one of our platforms as a test basis that was relatively easy for us to offer up, and obviously gives us kind of an immediate developmental capability. So again, very interested. Not exclusively a SOCOM pursuit.
Right. You feel good about Air Force's willingness to put skin in that game as well?
I do. We have a phenomenal relationship with General Goldfein and the Air Force. We have actual annual service talks with all the services to talk through how we can crush through our combined equities, and and the relationship with our sister services is phenomenal. I have no
My,
concerns.
my time is expired here, but I also want to express a willingness to work with you on the 1208-like issues with regard to unconventional warfare. So thank you all for being here today.